I've got something in my front pocket for you. Why don't you reach on in my pocket and see what it is? Then grab onto it, it's just for you. Give it a little squeeze and say, how do you do? Something in my front pocket for you. Why don't you reach on in my pocket and see what it is? Then grab onto it, it's just for you. Give it a little squeeze and say, how do you do? There's something in my front pocket. There's something in my front pocket. There's something in my front pocket.
And we are here. Welcome. Hi, welcome back to Talk Gaming. We're trying a different setup this time. I'm slowly revving up to go live with the show, and part of that is just switching over. I have been filming it in a very, very inefficient way. I've got like a DSLR that I filmed the video on, the mic I record in a separate audio file, sync everything up in post. It works, but it's inefficient. So I'm trying to sync it all up, and part of that includes changing stuff. So the camera is different. This is off of a C920. The mic and everything is going into XSplit, and I'm trying to use that so eventually we can just do it all live, and we'll see how this goes. I am playing the role of host and producer, which is always a blast. We'll see how it goes. But I did ask you guys in a poll last week if you guys thought that the webcam and the face cam, I suppose, was crucial, was important, if you liked it, disliked it, and the overwhelming majority, last I checked, I think it was 97% of you said keep it. So we'll keep it. If we do it through XSplit, it's really no big deal as long as the quality doesn't bug you. But with all of that said, all the housekeeping crap out of the way, let's get into it. This week has been fairly eventful. We're going to talk about some stuff that I'm personally excited for. I mean, there's all sorts of cool things to discuss. First and foremost, the new Zelda game released, and throughout this entire week, people have been playing it. People have been having a great time with it, and the reviews have been just insanely stellar. Right now, we're sitting at a I think it's a 97 on Metacritic. It's insane. Everybody loves the game. I even just tweeted out, I can even pull it up. We have the technology, don't we? We do. Reviewers, I made a video talking about how I felt that it might be nostalgia that was defining a lot of these reviews. It was probably adding 10% to the total review score. Just people's nostalgia factor was adding so much to it. And I felt that was a little, tough. I didn't think that it deserves that inherently. But here we go. Now that we're doing it like this, I can actually show you something on screen as we're going. So right here, this tweet by Danny O'Dwyer, who's a gaming journalist. I'm sure you've seen his stuff, his videos at least that he's in. I believe he's with IGN. Or maybe not. I don't know. If he's the guy I think he is, that's who he is. I could be mistaken though. But he said, so after a 5-hour flight, I went from Zelda being interesting to this is an instant classic. And I have zero nostalgia for the series, which, if true, is a very, very good sign, because I was saying that I was concerned that the entire thing was entirely based off of nostalgia and didn't have any real basis by itself. So I'm very glad to hear that other people are saying that it stands on its own as a great game, just like that. So I do want to try it, but like I said before, I'm a very broke college student who's spending way too much money on his YouTube channel and equipment and stuff, with the hope that eventually it pays for itself back as well. If we'll talk about financial and channel stuff later. I will make a note to make sure we do. But there's just so much money that you have to invest in the Switch to get it to a point where it's worth it. And I always break things down into a per hour thing. So I say, okay, the amount of entertainment I can get for an open world RPG, in terms of dollars per hour, is a lot higher than if I were paying for like a little 3-hour or the Order 1886, for instance. So if you're paying $60 for a full title, I personally expect to get 15 to 20 hours out of it. Anything less than that, and I'm beginning to feel like I'm wasting a little bit of money. I could have waited and got more bang for the buck. And as a broke college student, I really don't have the money to just throw around and play all these games that I want to, much less the time to do that. I would love to play a lot more games, and I would normally have a lot more time to play these games, but when you're doing YouTube, you spend a lot more time editing videos, talking about it, trying to research stuff, analyzing your analytics or Google Trends than you do playing games. Even if you know somebody who's a gaming YouTuber, I'm telling you from experience, just because you're doing YouTube, you're getting paid in some cases to just talk about gaming day in, day out. That doesn't necessarily mean that that person is gaming for that entire period at all. Usually it means the opposite. I mean, you end up doing a lot more that's not gaming, and you're frustrated because you're like, I'm talking about all this stuff, I'm analyzing it, I'm looking at it, and it seems great, but I can't even play it because I just don't have the time. Time is money, and money is time. And if you know what money is, then you know what time is. If you can name the reference, we will be best friends forever. It's something way before my time. It's a movie, but that's all. The only hint you get if you can name the specific reference with that voice. Time is money, and money is time. Okay. This, I found this very interesting. This is what I was going with Zelda. People have been playing Zelda a lot. So much so, somebody just tweeted this at me, that Pornhub released stats for this week. And they said that people within their group, their demographic that they identify as gamers, their traffic on the site has decreased by 17% or close to 17%, which is a pretty big demographic for them. Let's be real. So 17% decrease. And so at first you're like, okay, well, what could possibly be going on? I mean, there's a lot of good games. Maybe people are just distracted or busy, or they're in finals or something. Well, at the same time, right here, searches for Link specifically were up 102%. And searches for Zelda were up well over 100% as well. So it's just funny because people go off, they play this on their Switch, and then if they aren't doing something to pleasure themselves, when they're not doing that, they're searching for those characters. It's funny. Gamers are weird. I just thought that was a fun anecdote. Okay, Mass Effect Andromeda. People have been asking me to talk about this, and I will happily oblige you. I am going to be completely honest, and this might be hard to believe, but I have never played the Mass Effect series. Oh no. That's mainly the big reason why I haven't talked about it so far, because I don't feel qualified to. As an individual game, I can look at it and say, this is what I think, this is what I agree with, this is what looks good, this is what looks bad, and do that. But in terms of the series, I don't know much about it. Now, the good thing is that the developer has said, the developer has specifically said that they are approaching this as its own kind of story, basically. You don't need to play the first 3 in order to play this one, and presumably its sequel, and then that sequel. That sequel's sequel. Which is cool. They're trying to be open about it and restart, especially after the huge debacle after the ending of the 3rd game. They're really trying to start afresh, start anew. This one apparently takes place well after the whole Shepard incident, and there is no knowledge among these people, at least not much knowledge that they're going to bring up, as to what happened with Shepard. Apparently they went into like cryogenic sleep for 500 years. They got shipped off, and that event with Shepard way in the past. Now it's well in the future, and they're just doing their own thing, which I don't blame them for. They're trying to move away from it. But let me show you this. These are the tech specs. As much as I don't like going to Polygon for anything, this was just the first one that I pulled up. This is from the Mass Effect website directly. They just copied it over, but they offered up tech specs for it, and I'm kind of cropping this out a little bit now that I look at it. There we go. That kind of fixes it. So right here, the minimum specs are for a recommended 1280 by 720 resolution. I believe that this is on, does it say? No, it doesn't say specifically. This is, I believe, about medium or high on 1280, but anything on 1280, like in 720p, is not going to look great. Well, I mean, the Switch, if it's on a small enough screen, it'll look fine. But when you stretch it to a TV or something, it's not going to look very good, especially on a gaming monitor or something. So for a 720p experience with Mass Effect Andromeda, you're looking at needing an i5 3570 or an AMD FX 6350, which, okay, those are pretty low end. That's fine. GPU GTX 660. Yeah, no, most people nowadays will have something well above that, but like everything else, pretty standard. 8 gigs of RAM. Okay, that's pretty standard now. But their recommended is for 1080p at high, not even ultra, which there is an ultra setting, but at high at 1080p. Those are their recommended settings. And listen to this, they got Intel i7 4790, which is pretty nice GPU, I'm just saying. Their AMD FX 8350, this is what I have. Overclocked the crap out of it. It gets the job done. I'm just saying, so I really like that. That fits in line with me. GPU, a GTX 1060, 3 gigs, or GTX 970. Now, the 970 was the sort of, how to describe it? I know I have some console players watching, so I'm trying to put it into perspective. Like, you have the highest end, which this is up until about a year ago or 6 months ago, whenever the 1070, 1080, and 1060, all that came out, whenever that was. But up until then, it was like the 980 Ti was the very top. And that was very, very expensive. 600 plus, like $600 is the low bracket for those level of cards. So you're talking a graphics card that is more expensive than your entire console, or in many cases nowadays, 2 consoles. You can buy 2 PS4s with Uncharted 4 bundled in it, with controllers included and everything, for the price of one 980 Ti, especially at that time. Even now, they're very, very expensive because they're very strong cards. But then beneath that, you have just the plain 980, which really nobody bought. They just bought 980 Ti's, or they bought the 970, which was a very, very good card. For VR, I think the lowest recommended for the Vive was a 970. So, okay, that's a very, very strong card. Then you have 960 and it goes down from there. 970, we can even look up on Amazon right now. I'm fact checking myself in real time. What are we looking at in terms of Newegg prices? Woo, Nelly. So these are always a little bit different. Basically, there's different manufacturers that offer different things. But like, you can have this guy overclocked at 380, and then you can have this guy at 900, 640. I mean, it's all different manufacturers. Some of them have different like heat spreads. It's really, really weird how all of this works. And then you see like a refurbished one for 210. So really, there's a lot of things, and these are a year older. So that's one way of like dealing with your game's output. But when we look at those friggin' hardware specs, like a 1060 is fairly high end. That's higher end. That's more powerful than most people have. And so to be here, and that's your recommended, normally recommended is for like 1080p, or minimum is for like 1080p on low or medium. Like that's normally how these companies work it. But this is freaking, they're high, they're recommended for the best experience, which is what recommended is supposed to be. It's the recommended for the best experience. They're talking about a much higher end machine, and even then they're saying that you're still going to be stuck on high at 1080p. So this got some PC gamers in a rough. I personally think that they're down, like they're aiming a little lower. We're talking about a much bigger game, and right now we're approaching the era when we are really ramping up the graphics capabilities of a lot of these games. I mean, these games are getting bigger, they're getting better, they're getting more and more awesome, and we have to be prepared for the natural uptick in requirements. Now, to be clear, again, for the console people who watch me, if you are a console player and you're subscribed, I appreciate it. A lot of people have seen my The Death of Xbox is Coming, which is a very catchy title, I will admit. But they saw that, and I actually found out that the video was posted on a couple Xbox fanboy sites, and they asked people to come and downvote it. And I've had people flagging it, saying that there's copyrighted material in it. It's just been a nightmare to deal with, all because I criticize their business practices as good for consumers, but bad for Xbox. Apparently that's a bad thing. Complimenting them is no good. So I talked about this, and it's important to distinguish what you're getting on a console compared to what we're talking about with the PC. The PS4 is not magically, I mean, you can get a PS4 at Best Buy for $250, $300 if it's not on any type of sale. Same with the Xbox One. So if you're talking about that, then you're looking at something, well, you're saying, well, but my PS4 can play this game and I don't need to worry about it. Yes, it can. But for instance, with the Xbox, it's rendering most games, even nowadays, in 980p. The Nintendo Switch, when docked, isn't playing in 1080p. It's at 900p. So we're talking about the minimum recommended specs are for 720p. Yeah, that's minimum. That is very, very low scale. Like it's very different. It's very different. Plus, we have 16 different options on PC right now that are stated, as is seen. Let me go back and show you. Right here, 16 options for, I can zoom in a little. There we go. 16 options affecting image quality, most of which have variable detail levels. They include deep breath, ambient occlusion, anti-aliasing, chromatic aberration, effects quality, film grain, lighting quality, mesh quality, post-process, effects quality, resolution scaling, shader quality, shadow quality, terrain quality, texture filtering quality, texture quality, and vegetation quality. Okay. Quick rundown. Let's do that. Ambient occlusion. This just darkens things. I've done a lot of 3D work. This is a way of cheating to get to shadows, basically. So if you don't want to have to deal with a bunch of complicated meshes that have indents and things to get realistic shadows, ambient occlusion kind of cheats your way to that. Anti-aliasing, this allows you to get past those jagged things, like when you take a line that's on a really low resolution screen, you tilt it and it's all jaggy. Anti-aliasing analyzes the pixels around it and then kind of blurs it a little bit, makes it look more realistic. If you're playing in 4K, this is not important at all because there's so many pixels, it doesn't matter. You don't have to cheat. But when you're playing on a console or on PC at a lower resolution, whether that's 720p, 900p, or 1080p, anti-aliasing is pretty important. So that's also going to affect performance. Chromatic aberration, this is another kind of, as we'll see once we get down here, this is more of a I'm not sure why that's a specific option, but it's more of an artistic flair than anything else. Effects quality, I'm assuming that's for like particle effects, things like that, smoke. Film grain, not sure what that's about. Why would you play Mass Effect with film grain? I don't know. Maybe people like it looking cinematic. Lighting quality, more bounces, I suppose. Mesh quality, just raw vertices that are included. Post-process effects quality, again, just more stuff like adding vignette, adding lens flares, adding stuff like that. Resolution scaling, this is often what some people with very powerful rigs will do, is they'll actually take something that's they'll render it in 4K and downscale it to 1080p. You know, you got a lot of PC power when you're doing that with it. But apparently it can make everything look a lot better, look a lot smoother, less jaggedy. Shader quality, again, that's just materials. Shadow quality, hopefully that's explanatory. Self-explanatory. Terrain quality, just again, more quality in the ups and downs of the terrain. Texture filtering quality, texture quality, again, self-explanatory. And vegetation quality, I'm assuming that's, again, just with pure resolution of the textures included, translucency, all of those things. So really a lot of options to alter this stuff. And to put it simply, when you're playing on console, all of this is turned to 0. That's basically what you're dealing with. Sometimes they'll have a little bit of ambient occlusion included on one of the lower settings. They'll have some post-processing effects, but in general, all of this is going to be at either the lowest setting or turned off. With PC, you can have most of this on, like with these recommended settings. This is at 1080p on high, so that's even saying that most of these are turned on and on high. Which again, you're getting a much more beautiful game without having to, or at the cost of a very expensive graphics card. So a lot of people got upset about all of that. We spent a lot of time on that. I apologize. But I thought that it was important to bring up. Like even now, you're looking at Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn is running off of a PS4. If you had that built for the PC, you would be able to do higher res textures. You'd be able to do higher frame rates, of course, higher resolutions. One of the advantages of Horizon Zero Dawn was that it was built entirely for the PS4. People even are complaining that the frickin' PS4 Pro isn't actually doing as good a job as they had hoped it would do with Horizon Zero Dawn. And the developers spoke on it just earlier today and said, well, we built the game for the PS4. We got the SDK and everything for the PS4 Pro, but we can only do so much. So if we built another game for the PS4 Pro specifically, it would have been used differently, which is perfectly understandable. So it is, in certain cases, a matter of optimization. When you know your limitations, you can do cool stuff with it. You find little cheats away around corners to get certain effects done. But yeah, enough about that. Enough about Mass Effect hardware. Spent a good amount of time on that, but I think it was interesting, hopefully. State of Decay 2. State of Decay 2. This is a game, I played the first State of Decay, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I think it was, I got it for like $10 or something. Maybe it was 20. Maybe it was 15. It was between $10 and $20, but it was just so good. I'm so happy I spent my money on that. And I was in high school at the time, got it on our Xbox, and I played through it, and I had just such a blast. It was so much fun. It was just so great. But we're hearing more and more consistently about State of Decay 2 as the days go by. Presumably, we're going to get it sometime in 2017. It was announced at E3 in 2016. But certain elements of it look, yeah, there you go. There you go. Certain elements of it look really good. One of the really cool things about it was the permadeath functionality. So you'd play through the game, you'd come across different survivors like these guys, for instance. This would be your party sort of, and you could switch between them and play through the game, and it was super fun. But if one of them were to die, it would instantly save, and then they would never come back. They were dead for your entire game. And I found it really, really cool. I remember one girl, her name was Sarah. It was heartbreaking. I took her out. I was looting a convenience store in the middle of the night in game and in real life. And at one point, like, my brother Jacob comes over my shoulder and it's like, what's this? And I'm explaining it to him and I'm like, yeah, isn't this kind of cool? Isn't this cool? I really like it. And then all of a sudden this horde comes at me and, holy crap. And I start running away and I'm trying to get away. And then she gets attacked and she gets killed and they rip her limb from limb. And I just, I like didn't know what to do. I froze. I legitimately sat there for about 2 minutes because I had put everything into that character. Like, you have all these resources. She's carrying all your stuff. She has all your skill points that have been assigned to her. Like, everything has gone into this one character, and then she kicks it, and it's forever. There's no coming back. There's no fixing it. So I'm assuming that will make a comeback. Really, really enjoyed it. And I think that difficulty, especially in these types of settings, is very important. One of the reasons I think playing The Last of Us, for instance, or any zombie game on a higher difficulty will improve your experience, will improve your overall immersion. Same reason I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn on the hardest difficulty I can manage. So hard, not the extreme, but the next hardest one. It's just because I think you should respect the choices. I think you should respect the world and the danger that they are posing to you, as they say. But it is very interesting. I would expect it to come out probably sometime this fall. I swear there is going to be zero time this fall. There's going to be nothing. In August, we're getting Shadow of War, which is our next topic. Yes, that's an awesome transition. We're also going to be getting I'm assuming Red Dead Redemption 2, not going to get delayed or anything. There's just so many good games that are going to be coming out. I don't know what I'm going to do with my time, but I'm probably going to spend most of it playing video games. So we have Shadow of War that was announced. There were rumors of all of this going way back, and there was no doubt that this game was going to get a sequel. No doubt. It was always going to get one. But it's now official, and it's called Shadow of War, and it looks interesting. Now, some people have criticized it as not particularly impressive, and I actually have the gameplay pulled up so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. And to be fair, this is alpha gameplay, but at the same time, I can see what people mean when they say it doesn't look particularly better than the first game. It still has that sort of weirdly dry look to it, which I totally can sympathize with. People expect leaps and bounds with every sequel, every alteration to a game series. So I can at least understand that, but you have to look at it both with the, or at least, what's the word I'm looking for? At least you have to look at it with keeping in mind that this is alpha footage. And secondly, that you have to look at what's going on screen. There's a lot going on screen. Look at all the people. Look at the minimap right here. Look at the minimap. Oh, it's hidden. You can't see it. There's a minimap. Can I switch to just... No, I can't. I didn't set that up. I'll figure it out next time. But there's a mini-map, and there's probably 200 different orcs and stuff that are fighting. Now, the really interesting thing is that they have changed the Nemesis system and tried to elaborate on it such that you will actually have sort of followers that you are working with, and you have, just like you did before, where you can kind of take over somebody's mind and they work for you. Now you can have them be your followers, and then you can have them recruit people, and before you know it, you have dozens and dozens of people. All those orcs, half of them are on your side and are fighting for you, which is really intriguing and really, really interesting. Now, the other thing is that they're trying to make it so everybody's experience is different and is unique. Now, that's one of the characters that's fighting for you. So you find him, ooh, ripped his head off. Look at that. So this is really, really interesting. And the idea is that they want to make it unique for every single person so that everybody has a different story to tell. And they can all say, well, yeah, well, oh, you had Orgflack the Butcher Eater, and I had Susanna the Friendly Whore or something. Like, that's cool. Like, everybody's going to have a different gaming experience as they go through this. That's unique. It's certainly different. Now, the cost of that is perhaps graphical fidelity. I still think it looks amazing either way. I thought the first game looks amazing, and even now I play the first game and I'm still like, this keeps pace with most games today, so I have no problem with it. The graphics with these games, I think, if that's the worst thing you can say about this, is that it looks good, but it just doesn't look as amazing as it could be. It's just like those criticisms that people had for The Witcher 3 and for Fallout 4. Those criticisms over the graphics of both of those games, I didn't ever understand. I thought that they were unwarranted. I think that both the games looked good enough that it was not ruining to your immersion. It worked. This is better than average for most games nowadays. So I'm happy with it. But the idea is that there's all these forts in addition to the big open world. There's all these forts that you are going through, and they each are headed up by a nemesis, for instance, that you are dealing with. And Throckstorm the Bringer. I like that. And so there's necromancers, like this guy is a cursed dark necromancer. So they each have different capabilities. A necromancer, for instance, if he is heading up a fort, he will be, he'll deck it out. And this is all dynamic, so it's not the same for everybody. It's going to be different for everybody. If somebody happens to be a heavy necromancer who likes fire, you'll have oil bins, oil tanks, whatever they're called, urns maybe, on the walls of the fort that they'll dump on you, and then they'll light you on fire if you try to attack them. Which is really cool, which is really, really cool. And then you get further in the fort, and then there's magical traps set up because he is a necromancer. And then in the final arena, he'll fight you with necromancy primarily. So it's cool because it's different for everybody and it's unique. So I think that's really intriguing. And there's been a lot of mentions specifically about how this is going to work now. There's some really interesting stuff, and they've talked about this, the developers specifically. Like, for instance, what's the scope of the game's map? Some people got the perception, like this is one of those forts. Some people got the perception that it was just for, like, there's forts and you move around and you're going to run out of things to do. No, there's a massive map in addition to the forts. The forts would be their own game in and of themselves, but there is an entire map in addition to the forts. So what's the scope of the game's map? It's huge. Oh, and I should probably mention who this is. This is Michael de Plater, who is Monolith Productions, Monolith's VP of creative. Oh, that's a typo. But it's a he's the creative director of it, or at least of one of their subsidiaries. So what's the scope of the game's map? It's huge. Thing is, it's enormously large with multiple dimensions. Every single one of those areas, one of those regions, whether it's Minas Ithal, or it's Minas Morgul, or Cirith, Ungol, I don't know, or any of those, they're a lot larger, and they've got a lot more depth and detail and verticality. than they have had. Then they have outposts, which are likely what we had in Shadow Mordor, or which are like what we had. But then there are over and above that they have the fortress. I can't read today. The fortress that controls the whole region. Then the Orc culture, depending on the state of that, it really does affect and change ambience and the life in the sandbox and enemies that you'll encounter. I can't read today. I don't know what it is. I need more caffeine, guys. I need more caffeine. But this is how you have to approach this game. It is a sandbox. Like Skyrim, this game is a sandbox. It's not trying to hold your hand through a predetermined experience. It is a sandbox that gives you a lot of crap to do and says, go. And that's what this game is. And frankly, I'm okay with it. There's all sorts of different things. I highly recommend that you read through this. They have interviews with the game directors. And they talk about different elements with the consoles. Like, for instance, regarding the Project Scorpio announcement, will Shadow of War, which has been confirmed that it will be on the Scorpio, will it be the same across every platform, PS4, Xbox One, and Scorpio? Or do you have special plans for Scorpio? And this creative director said, one of the big advantages we have, it's not something I can really talk to because I'm not on the tech side, but having our own engine and our own engine team is just enormous for us. We're in such a great position to take advantage of all of the different technologies or technical advantages. Our PlayStation Pro version was great as well and really took advantage of this. We're always really excited to take advantage of hardware. Now, that's a very, very political, non-committal statement, but at the very least, he's saying that, yeah, it's going to take advantage of the hardware, which at least that's what I take this as all meaning. Take advantage of all the different technologies. Like the PS4 version, I'm expecting it to be the same game, but to allow you to upscale, to do all sorts of things that the normal Xbox One wouldn't be able to do. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Now, I did want to discuss Game Pass a little bit. I have criticized Xbox recently, but Game Pass is frankly blowing my mind. As I read through it, the more I was impressed. This, as I switch around, no, I don't want to sign in Microsoft. Damn it. I don't know why they asked me to sign in. I don't want to sign in. If I wanted to sign in, I would have signed in. This is Game Pass from Microsoft. Now, at launch, they're expecting over 100 great games coming later this spring. A little birdie told me sometime in April. Early April. So I would expect it early April. But basically what this allows you to do is have a Netflix for gaming. Now, PlayStation tried something like this. They did the PlayStation Now or whatever it was called, which allowed you to stream. I'm not even doing finger quotes because this was what they did. They allowed you to stream the games to your console from their servers, which, okay, at first glance, I kind of see what you're saying, how that might work. But it doesn't quite work when we think about just typical bandwidth. I didn't know that my ISP, my internet service provider, I didn't know they had caps on bandwidth for just typical like tethered connection. I didn't know that they had that. Apparently it's like 1024 gigs or something. And I hit it this past month in January. I don't know how. I don't know why. I think it's because I was using Dropbox a lot and I had all my videos storing up there. And so it was making it so I was like having all this stuff go up and down and up and down. So I think that's what it was. But anyway, I hit that. And doing this certainly, or streaming video games certainly had an impact on that. So a lot of people are having trouble with it, not to mention raw speeds. You have to have really good speed in order to actually stream those games accurately and to a point where the frame rates are good and when there isn't much lag just in terms of controller decisions. It really didn't work. And apparently so I have not confirmed this, but somebody told me that a Sony Sony rep said that it was purely a test of the community, kind of their customers' Wi-Fi and bandwidth capabilities to see if they would be able to do something like that, because it would be really cool. And it was a resounding nope. Not at all. Not at all. So it's going to be a little while before something like that works out. But Game Pass is a slam dunk from Xbox. Well done, Xbox. Let me just describe this. One low monthly price. I believe it's $10 is what they're asking for it. It allows you, once you are paying that $10, it allows you to download a game, like whether it's Halo 5, Saints Row 4, Mad Max, NBA 2K16, Batman, Lego Batman, Fable 3, Gears of War, all these games, some of which are 360 games. So it's redefining backwards compatibility all of a sudden. And so it allows you to take these games, download them to your console, as they describe in the frequently asked questions. I'll just read it because I don't think I can. I think I'll probably mess it up if I don't. So at Xbox, we believe in offering new ways to give the best value to play a collection of the greatest games for one low monthly price. Again, about $10 is what I heard. Xbox Game Pass gives you unlimited access to over 100 great games, including popular backwards compatible Xbox 360 and blockbuster Xbox One titles like Halo 5 and Mad Max and all those. Xbox Game Pass will add games to, and sometimes remove from, just like Netflix, its catalog every month, which means you can always find something new and exciting to play. Download and experience games in their full fidelity from top industry publishers and play offline for up to 30 days. Xbox Game Pass is truly your ticket to endless play. Now, what does this mean? Well, there was a bunch of criticism sent over and launched at Xbox back when the console initially released, and it was because their head, I don't even remember the guy's name, their CEO at the time, or the head of Xbox at the time, he said, well, I mean, you're going to need to be connected to the internet 24/7 in order to play your console. If you're not connected, you can't play anything. You can't use your device. And somebody said, well, what about like those people overseas that are defending our country and just want to get back to the military base and play some Madden with other people in their squad or something? And he said, well, then I think the Xbox One is not for them. Like, did he just say that? Did he just say that our freaking military service men and women should go somewhere else because he doesn't want to? That's bad. That's real bad. And so after all that crap of always on, has to be connected to the internet, this comes out and they say that you can download it to your console first off, but also that you can play it for 30 days without being connected to the internet. Meaning, if you download it, on, say, January 1st, you download Mad Max, and then you unplug your router or whatever your device is plugged into for internet connectivity. You disconnect it from the internet. You have 30 days where you can play that without reconnecting online before it will shut it off. And the reason that they shut it off at all is so that you can't, like, get Game Pass and then... Also, in addition, there's no limit on how many games you can download. It's only limited by your storage. So what this would allow you to do is to prevent, or allow them to do, it would prevent you from buying like a Xbox One, loading it full of games on Game Pass under your account. So it's completely full. It's got like 50 games on there, and then you sell it at an upscaled price on Craigslist or something, and they get to keep the games. They just have to not connect it to the internet. It doesn't work like that. They only would have 30 days. So this is a much better solution than the 24/7 connection that they initially were dealing with. They're giving trust and showing trust in their audience and in their consumers, which I can greatly appreciate. So, well done. Microsoft. This is phenomenal. I was hoping that something like this would come out. Phil Spencer really is doing a bang up job when it comes to this. I'm wildly impressed. So keep up the good work. If Game Pass is anything to show for the future of Xbox, you guys have a very bright future. Now, shifting, another fun anecdote. GameStop, their stock dropped after this Game Pass announcement. So much so, let's see if they mention GameStop's stock price dropped from $26.52 per share to $23.61, finishing with an overall 7% drop in value. Ouch. Ouch. That's in the span of a day. Ouch. Ouch. That's real bad. Well done, Xbox. And like, I enjoy my PlayStation. It was given to me by a fan. People were weirdly thinking that it was given to me by Sony. No, I was given the console by a fan. And the games, I either purchased myself or got them from that same fan. So I really enjoy my PlayStation because it allows me to play those console exclusives that I wouldn't otherwise get to play, whether it's Bloodborne, Uncharted 4, The Last of Us, games like that. So I'm very thankful for that. Xbox hasn't had a lot of exclusives this generation that have drawn me in, that have really pulled me. But Game Pass alone is interesting enough to me where I can say, okay, that's bang for your buck. You think I'm paying $300 for the console and $10 a month for Game Pass. The sheer number of games I have access to is so massive, including games from last generation that I thought I had lost forever. Now I can get access to those all in one fell swoop. That's impressive to me, and I think it's very important to keep Sony on their toes. Now, speaking of Sony, a lot of rumors have come out this past week about the PlayStation 5 coming out in 2018. Now, this came out off of an analyst, basically. An analyst said and looked at all the data and said, well, we think that Sony would be very profitable if they launched a PlayStation 5 in 2018. Well, yeah, they would be. But it's important to remember these analysts sometimes have inside information and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just pulling it out of their butt crack. Other times they really know what's going on. We don't know who this guy is. At least I haven't found anything specific on him. It seems like he mentioned something in a passing comment and it just took off. I'm out of drink. I don't know why I keep trying to sip it. But it's at the very least we can talk about it. Do I think that there will be a PlayStation 5 in 2018? Sort of. Whether or not it will be named the PlayStation 5, I don't know. But I do not think Sony is going to sit by and let the Scorpio come over and take the place as the strongest console ever made over the PlayStation 4. I don't think they're going to do that. If anything, they're going to update the PS4 Pro or update the base PS4 or something. They'll release a PS4 Ultra. So all of a sudden you have the PS4, PS4 Pro, and PS4 Ultra. I mean, they're going to do something. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to do something. I cannot fathom them just sitting by and letting Xbox take that huge of a market share, especially because they've seen it coming for the better part of 2 or 3 years. The Scorpio has been rumored for ages. So the idea that they're just going to sit back and let it happen, I really disagree with. What's my source for that? I don't have one. Maybe this analyst is just thinking like I am. I really just don't see how there would be any way to just let that happen. If I were running the business, I would look at it and say, guys, they're going to take over this massive market. Like, we have the PS4 Pro. We are the most powerful console on the market. They're about to take that from us, and we've seen it coming for 2 or 3 years. What can we do about it? And my team would work on it, and we'd fix it. Or at least come up with some sort of competition to that product specifically. And I would guarantee you there will be some major response in 2018, possibly announced at E3, because they want to give players a reason to be like, well, the Scorpio launches next week But I know that Sony is going to come out with like an updated PS4 Pro that comes bundled with Bloodborne 2 or something like that. They're going to have some response ready. And if they don't, they're wildly underestimating the power of the Scorpio as a product, not as a console, but as a product. I see the appeal there, especially after that Xbox video. I said there would be reasonable and rational consumers who would look at the Xbox Scorpio and say, I can build a PC that does more stuff for the same price. I was wrong. Not technically, but because I assumed that all of these Xbox consumers were rational. They are not. Just read through the comments on that video. They are not. Most of them can't even spell wood the right way. Like the guy who spelled it W-O-O-D, like 4 times in a sentence. It was painful to read. But it's not a matter of rational consumerism. It is about sticking with your team. The loyalty to the brand, I was astonished at. So I completely underestimated that. I guess I'm more level-headed in terms of how I approach gaming decisions in terms of consoles and hardware and things like that, where I'm not strictly stuck to any one side. I used to be a huge Apple fanboy, but then I looked at all of the Samsung devices that were out there and I said, nope, those are better. They're just better. So I'm going to get one of those. So I did. Loved it. Got the Note 7. I had 2 of them. Then they started exploding, returned them, got the Google Pixel and a free S7 Edge. They're great. They're just better products. Other people, they would never leave Apple because they're committed. Same thing with Xbox. They're committed. But that's the PS4 or PS5. There will be some response. There just has to be. It would be a huge miscalculation to let that one slide. I just can't imagine they'll just sit on that one. Now, I do want to respond to a comment that came in on Patreon. If you want to support me on Patreon outside of this, I do want to talk briefly about the channel in terms of how we're doing this. As you know, I don't put ads on these Talk Gaming episodes right now. I'm doing it mostly through Patreon. If you want to support me, you can. But I've gotten so many messages, so many tweets, so many comments of people legitimately begging me to put ads back on these videos. Because they're like, listen, man, it's 5 seconds until I can skip it. It helps you out. You just throw it back on there? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it up to just a vote, another poll right now. So you can click on it. You can just answer yes, put ads or sponsorships rather up on it. So if I can find a company that's like, hey, just talk about our service for 10 seconds at the start of your episode or something. If you'd be okay with that, hit yes. If not, hit no. Easy enough. But it will help me out. It will improve the quality. Money is very, very important to the channel's growth at this moment. So I do want to say that. Patreon is the other way that you can directly help. Links in the description below. Skyler Sexton, who is a patron of mine. Thank you, Skyler. So, and I mean, these are just fun. Like, see the rewards. A little turd is $3, and you get your name added to the list of patrons. Which reminds me, I gotta add Skyler's name to the list. It's in the default upload section, so I always forget to add it when we get a new patron. But Skyler Sexton, who is a patron of mine, he said, I have 2 questions actually. I've never heard you really mention any Blizzard games outside of quick Overwatch comments. How do you feel about Blizzard and their games? Any favorites? Also, what is it about game that keeps you coming back to old games, trying new ones, spending continuous amounts of time with it? I found the answer to be fairly different from person to person, so I'm interested in how you answer. Well, Skyler, thank you not only for supporting me, but also for the comment. I really do appreciate it. Again, if you are a patron, you can ask me these questions directly, and I will answer them in Talk Gaming directly. Just another perk. So with the first one, Blizzard Games, I love me some Hearthstone, which, I mean, it's not directly an Overwatch thing. In terms of Overwatch, I'm really not a big Overwatch guy. The whole kind of Team Fortress 2 style of game where you're playing with a bunch of people in a common server and you're running around having fun. You're having fun. Great, good. Enjoy that. It's not my type of game. I'm a much more narrative player, and I know there's narrative in those games, but that's not quite. Like, my style of game is Horizon Zero Dawn, as you see on the screen right now. My style of game is Uncharted 4 or Bloodborne. It's either like insanely tough combat type style with certain particular themes. Plus, I'm not a big futuristic sci-fi fan. I think it's because my name is Luke, and people tease me about being Luke Skywalker all the time. I kid you not, it happened twice yesterday. And every time it happens, people think they're being clever. They're like, oh, I'm not your father. Bet you haven't heard that one before. I have. So it's just the whole genre, it doesn't really appeal to me. And in terms of the art style, in terms of the setting, it's not my thing. I've played it a bit. I've played it directly with friends. It's just not my thing. I have such a limited time to play games that I'd rather spend that time playing through a sequence like this from Horizon Zero Dawn, which, as you'll see in a moment, gets intense. That's in terms of Blizzard. Hearthstone is an absolute favorite of mine. And I want to see if I can find this thing real quick to show you. But I mean, Hearthstone is just one of those games where it just never gets old. It never gets old. I introduced my girlfriend to it, and she has been addicted, and it's pretty great. It's actually pretty satisfying when you find something that you and someone close to you can kind of connect over something. And I've been clobbering her at Hearthstone. She's beaten me once out of maybe 9 or 10 games that we've played since I introduced her to it, and she did a good job, but still. Hearthstone, though, it's hard to believe that game came out March 11th of 2014. That long ago. I remember seeing the TV ads that were so bad, and it looked so not fun. It looked so bland. I didn't understand why people were interested in it. It made no sense to me. It just was bizarre. I didn't get it. I really didn't. But I mean, now I've played it, and honestly, it never gets old. It never gets old. And I love me some Hearthstone. I love me some Hearthstone. Mainly, I've always wanted to get into Magic the Gathering, but it's too expensive for me and too time consuming at the same time. And Hearthstone is like a simplified version of, like, hyper simplified version of Magic the Gathering. So it's probably why I like it. Somebody said if Hearthstone is checkers, Magic is chess, which makes me feel a little impotent, but it's fun. It's fun either way. If you have fun, you have fun. So that's the answer to Blizzard specifically. What keeps me coming back to old games, trying new ones? Basically, what keeps me in gaming? I don't know. Gaming is something where there's always something new to be learned and intrigued by. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. There's new stuff to learn and to figure out, and new experiences to be had. Boogie2988, one of my favorite YouTubers of all time, he made a video on this way back when, like years ago. It's in his backlog, but he made a video talking about gaming, and he said, like, there's all these people that are always saying, what, you're a gamer? Get a life. And he had a very interesting take on it. What he said is, these people, they say, get a life. You know, your life isn't as awesome as mine because I played football in high school or something. But, like, the thing that they don't understand is that when you game, like, I've slaughtered demons in hell in Dante's Inferno. I've taken down giants in Skyrim. I've hunted woolly mammoths in Skyrim. In The Witcher 3, I've dealt with hags from Crookback Bog and dealt with wizards that are extremely horny. Like, I've done so many great things. I've had so many lives throughout gaming. I've been Joel in The Last of Us. I've lost my daughter, and then I've gone and found another one, essentially. I've rediscovered love, and I've gone through that experience. And I've lived through multiple zombie apocalypses. I've been Aloy. I've gone through a futuristic world, post-apocalyptic world, and fought robotic dinosaurs. And all you do is sit and watch football on Sunday afternoon and pretend like you were ever capable of doing what those athletes on screen do for 10 seconds. It's just, gaming lets you be somewhere and someone else constantly. Like, you're telling me to get a life. I've lived 1,000. And I will continue to live more and experience new things constantly. Because these games I got on my shelf, the games I have on my hard drive, they are a fraction of what I'll have next year. And the year after that, and the year after that. Constantly new stuff coming out. Each game gets better and better and better, with some exceptions. So I hope that kind of answers the question. It's a very roundabout way of answering it, but there you go. That's what I have. But thank you, Skyler, for supporting me and doing all that through Patreon, and also for asking the question. I do really appreciate it. But that's all I have for this episode. My throat is very sore. I should have gotten a drink before this. Let me know how you thought that the new kind of format and style worked. If you liked it, let me know in the comments below. And who knows, we might try doing this live on a Friday afternoon next week. And of course, it'll be backlogged. It'll be saved. I'll do some polish on it, and it'll go up on the channel as its own video. So you don't need to watch it live, but it would be a fun way of you interacting with me live, asking questions live. And that way it's like an actual show. So let me know what you thought. Let me know all of that. I am truly interested. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Peace out.